All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that is actually the case. We have a fairly packed news schedule today. A few minutes late, but it's close to 7 a.m. Eastern. I'm operating on Dutch time, so I don't do time zones. I hate time zones. I hate having a schedule, actually. It's much easier to just go live whenever you want to, but then nobody knows that you're going live, and it's a really big problem. So I've decided to take one for the team and roughly handle a schedule for the first time in, I don't know, 10 years or so. Anyway, we'll make sure that we're live on Rumble. Yes, indeed. And chat is working, which is always good to see. Let's make sure all the tabs are loaded, ready to go. Also important. I want to have a more sophisticated setup in the future. Yes, 8 a.m. Eastern. My apologies. My computer is still on or not on daylight savings. I don't know what the fuck is going on. This is why I hate time zones. I don't know. I can't even dress myself. I'm like Joe Biden. So, yeah, we'll get right into it. First and foremost, links in the description, of course, to everything that we're going to cover. First and foremost, though, if you're watching on YouTube, pinned comment at the beginning of chat, at the top of chat, and on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble, in the description. We are still helping our Greek allies at the moment. We have managed to retake basically all of Greece, but for some reason, Turkish people keep griefing the islands and the giant Greek flag in the middle of Ionia, so we're pushing them back. Please don't invade neighboring countries. I mean, some people have been pixeling in parts of Turkey, but I don't know how helpful actually that actually is. It makes more sense to simply defend the mainland. Now, the Greeks are our allies on Pixel Planet. So we're once again pouring in. I do expect there to be server lag because, several hundred clankers will pour in. You can see most of Greece is restored, but there's always griefing on the flag to deal with. There's an area at the north that's still pixeled in red. For some reason, there's a partial border around it. I don't know. I guess 3 or 4 countries claim that as theirs or something like that. You can go over to the Constantinople area and just randomly drop blue pixels if you want to. But again, it'll be cleaned up and that'll just cause more retaliation. At this point, I don't know why there is retaliation. The Greeks have won this war. And they still attempting to panel in multiple islands. Yeah. This guy, force the Turks to fix their own equals less time to attack Greece. Yes, but then you take someone away from repairing damage to Greece. So it's basically a losing proposition. But we outnumber the enemy probably 5-1. So we effectively, in a single night, we went from Greece being almost entirely subsumed to being almost entirely liberated. And they were attacked first, just to be clear, again, to the Pixel Planet crowd, some of you probably lurking on the video. We did not start this war, but we will end it, just to be clear. We have more patience than our adversary. And they'll start spurging out and attacking the Ouroboros flag or something. That's okay, too. That can always be repaired as well. But yeah, they are trying to launch an invasion of several of their bordering islands. If you don't know geography very well and don't know which islands belong to who, because there's like 200 of them, it might be better just to focus on the flag in the center of the mainland or something like that. Now that I got that out of my system, yeah, I'll probably do a one-off video again later. Maybe we will go back into Constantinople if the attack continues from our Turkish friends over there. Don't make me do it again. You see the kind of firepower that Clankdom has. Anyway, we'll get right into this. Spinach Brah over on Twitter. Joe Biden ordered the FBI to raid his political opponent's house. This is partially true. We have I did a video this morning. I had 3 different links there that I had to cover with regards to updates on the Mar-a-Lago raid. The first update is that there is a piece with regards to the special master filing that insinuates that Joe Biden himself was involved with the decision to requisition the documents at the Mar-a-Lago. Now, this on its head isn't damning. It's not an order to raid the Mar-a-Lago. It's nothing like that. The problem is that Joe Biden knew that Trump was still invoking executive privilege over the articles at that time. The classified and many unclassified documents were, to him, his own personal property as the former president. If you don't tell him that you have countermanded that in private and possibly illegally, there is no binding SCOTUS case on this issue. Kavanaugh has already weighed in with an opinion saying that for a former president can't be stripped of that executive privilege. If you do not tell him, and the National Archives subpoenas, and the subpoena is, brushed aside because they're like, look, these are presidential records, they're Trump's, fuck off. You know that there's going to be a raid. You understand that that was the entire premise, because there's no other methodology by which you could repatriate those documents. The fact is that what we're looking at here now is not the Espionage Act. It's not Trump selling secrets. It's not treason. It's not sedition, etc. It's effectively just document retention. That's literally all we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a non-crime scenario, which is why they've punted and said that they're not going to decide whether to indict till after the midterms. They're probably going to say, well, the Republicans took the House, so indicting him will be impossible, so we're just dropping the issue. You watch. I bet that that's what will happen. I think all the people saying that he'll be indicted, unless something goes terribly wrong in the midterms, I don't think that that's likely. And then if it does happen, then the real fireworks begin, as I pointed out this morning. What happens is you end up with a federal court case where Trump says, look, Biden can't rescind my executive privilege. There's no binding case law saying that he has that power. Otherwise, and this was pointed out by Kavanaugh, which is why the liberals in that case would attempt to get him to recuse, along with Coney Barrett and others. If you did have a situation where an acting president could retroactively strip their predecessor of their executive privilege, no president would ever take any documents, study any documents, assert privilege, or even talk about anything classified unless they were actively in the presidential role. Even then, it would be legally hazardous for them. You would essentially be demeaning the executive office altogether. There'd be no point to having executive privilege. Nobody's going to talk about anything, no matter how minorly classified, even if you have to bring it up in the conversation with a foreign dignitary or some staff member or something, because you have no choice. You have to talk about a classified issue. Nobody would do that. Biden wouldn't do that. He'd be setting a standard by which he himself could be jailed in the future. So, I mean, if Biden doesn't probably talk about classified things because he's too busy eating his bran muffin. But if you were an actual executive, not a steward, if you actually were in control of the situation doing diplomacy, you wouldn't dare to talk about butt fuck anything. I know I would, and I'd say, sorry, American people, I'm not allowed to do diplomacy. I might say something classified, and there might be a note taken down, and then all of a sudden I get put into prison after I leave office. So fuck it. I just won't do diplomacy. I'll order other people to do that. I'm not making state visits now. You've got other updates to this. We've now found out that the FBI took tax documents. They took medical records. This is on top, by the way, of taking news clippings and scrapbooks and photographs and other things that aren't covered under the warrant with the Mar-a-Lago raid. Melania's clothing, her panties, her nightgown, and so forth. This is a broad overreach of the DOJ's authority. It's an enormous overreach beyond the actual warrant that was issued. Right now, and this is other news, we have a massive meltdown of leftoids on Twitter. And I'm seeing it live, which is really funny. They're saying, well, Judge Cannon, in this case, he was a Trump appointee, so he shouldn't be allowed to make this ruling with regards to the special master. Oh, my God, they're flipping out right now because they see the writing on the wall. They understand there will actually be a reasoned defense by Trump and his people against this witch hunt, which pisses them off. They expected him to just roll over and play dead, or they expected, hey, the Obama donating judge that represented Epstein will preside over literally everything. No special master. You're not allowed to review the documents. They contain nuclear secrets and shit like that. This is why Trump is in the right here. He's mocking them on the daily in public because he knows they don't have a case. They think that the court of public opinion is the trial. This is what the liberals have devolved into at this point. They think the fact that they crow about the Mar-a-Lago raid and have weird fantasies about Trump being dragged out at midnight by his orange hair and stuff like that is reality. That's not the way the legal system works. They want to suspend the idea of a justice system entirely. Presumption of guilt, no defense allowed, put him before a tribunal, and then I guess hang him or something. That's not the way that the system works, and they can't understand why, because they do not give a shit about the Constitution or about our republic. The fact is that the liberals have become fascistic. They project that off onto MAGA. And really, that's what this is all about. The suspension of making a decision, which will be probably not to indict until after the midterms, is just a political ploy. It's an empty political gesture. Not a banned account. We can attack Russian pixels. Support Ukraine. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Clankers are neutral with regards to that. We are helping Greece at the moment. I would rather not water down the manpower. Cody Cannon, good morning, Sticks. Do you have any suggestions for someone in Zone 6, Michigan for winter crops? I've got kale, radishes, turnips, and cabbage. Grow some collards, because collard greens are goddamn amazing. Put in some winter peas and stuff like that. You can't go wrong with pea plants. They fix nitrogen. Darun Albane, I also prefer non-fluffy flat pillows. Fallout 4, I have a robot army instead of settlers. I would love to have a robot army in a Fallout 4 settlement. The problem is that unlike the settlers, they can actually be killed without wandering into an explosion. And so it becomes a big problem because you have to keep expending resources making more robots. Only place that makes sense is actually in, you can't generate water at the airport settlement. So you might as well just have a bunch of battle bots there. Never gets attacked anywhere because it's literally right next to the Brotherhood of Steel. Makes a good base. Nick Moores, yo Sticks, have you got any book recommendations for someone who hasn't read in ages, looking to ease back into it? I'm thinking fiction. Or answer, thanks Nick, no comment. I'll read a Clinton bio, dare me. I do dare you to read Clinton's biography. I think that would be funny. Read The Elfin Ship by James Blaylock if you're into fiction. Bit of sword and sorcery, 80s, so you know it's good. Steampunk, excellent book, my favorite. Mr. Mosterman, do you think there will be real legal backlash against the DOJ, or will they just bury it and try to act like they were never wrong while pretending he was always guilty? It'll be buried like every other non-scandal involving Trump, and at the end of the day, the legacy media won't report on, the juicy details thereafter. When the Republicans take the House and investigate the investigators, it'll conveniently disappear. Notice how you're not seeing front page news about the special master being appointed by the court right now. It's nowhere to be seen on most legacy media, despite the fact that really, when you look at the arguments being made by the judge in his decision, it should be top page news. They're probably just rigging up hit pieces at the moment. Muddy Drip 6665. Did you see that the New York governor said her right as governor overrides the right to bear arms in the Constitution? I didn't, but it doesn't surprise me that Hochul would say something that loony. There's a reason why Zeldin might be closing in on the polls. Dennis, so Sticks, the Greeks cry about their islands, but I noticed they invaded Albania and North Macedonia. The Turks right now are invading Bulgaria. The entire area is a mess. Clankers are not involved with the invasion force. We're only involved with helping the Greeks to restore their flag and so forth, which, by the way, is completely clean at the moment. That was fast. Yeah, they're still trying to invade Greek territory. If people want to go and bomb Constantinople, they can do that if they want to, but you should probably just focus on clearing those islands. Then we can pivot to other things. I find that funny how quickly that went. That was quicker than I expected. Anyway, next story. Wall Street silver again. What we all knew is likely is now stated openly. Russia's gas supplies to Europe via the Nordstream 1 pipeline will not resume in full until the collective West lifts sanctions against Moscow over its invasion of Ukraine, the Kremlin has said. That's funny. The other day, the Russians said it was just they had a leaky system. They had something they had to fix within Nord Stream, and they couldn't pump the gas because it wasn't safe to do so. They had to shut it off. Now, all of a sudden, you have an entirely different story. We've seen this from Russia multiple times in their war. That being said, Trump done told you so. Back in 2018, he confronted the Germans and others in Europe and said, look, you've become too reliant on this fantasy that Russia's going to softball you and just wants money. They're going to sell you oil. It reminds me of something else that happened in U.S. history. In the United States, in the détente era, and thereafter with China, of course, effectively attempted to use money to bribe both China and then the Soviet Union, now Russia, into entering the Western fold. The idea was, hey, if we have a lot of intermingled trade, we're giving you food if you're starving. You're giving us industrial goods, ores and stuff. If we're all trading together, even if we're not allies and friends, at the very least, you avoid some of the worst parts of hardline diplomacy and certainly war. It didn't work. What happened is that China got really, really rich. It never abandoned its imperialistic ambitions or authoritarianism. The only thing that it abandoned was hardline centrality of its economy, and then only partially. The Soviet Union collapses. Russia never fully entered the Western fold, although they did make an attempt to join NATO. The idea was, and the Germans engineered this, the idea was if we're buying all this gas, well, it's going to be a huge chunk of Russia's energy economy. They're not going to shut it off because they want money. Then all of a sudden they realize that if you fuck around, you find out. Trump warned of this in 2018, and he was met with laughter. I remember the legacy media reports from the West. Oh, Trump is warmongering again. Trump is playing alarmist over Putin. He wouldn't actually do that because, he's gotten addicted to Coca-Cola. Whoops. I guess Trump was right, as he was with 90% of the predictions that he made about what would be happening right now. Very interesting. Not surprising at all. Joker 1 on Rumble. A Turkish navy is massing southwest of Crete. Permission to change their flags to Greek or USA. Yeah, if you want to do that, you can. And Bunny Rarebit. Trump has endorsed Lee Zeldin for the New York governor race. Please ask your followers to meme the shit out of the incumbent Kathy Hochul, pronounced Hochul. Oh, she's a piece of shit tyrant and currently unelected. Yeah, she's a fill-in. The former governor, of course, Cuomo left, and she's the fill-in. She's somehow worse than Cuomo in everything other than sexually assaulting people. And, of course, she is a Democrat, so we'll see whether that actually holds up over time. By the way, almost 4,000 people are already watching live. That's more than I expected, considering that I didn't give a shout-out beforehand that I was going to be going live at the normal time. I had to cut it a little bit close. By the way, I do have chili on the stove. Really meaty. Yes, beans go in chili, unless it's going to be a hot dog topping or something, or a side dish. I make it the right way. Kidney beans, brown beans, black beans. That's what I'm talking about. It is what I am discussing, my friend. Yeah, so if you want to go over to those islands that are being paneled in red, if you zoom out, you'll see the ones that were blue before, and you'll be able to focus on those ones. The Turks are doing an advance there, even though they're losing literally everywhere else, and still trying to grief the Greek flag sporadically. We'll see what happens. So yeah, Trump right once again. The Russians have closed off Nordstream 1, which means, by the way, higher energy prices this winter. Fellow residents of European nations, you will suffer. Prices will skyrocket. Hate to tell you this, but just having your electricity bill or your gas bill rise by several times is just the icing on the cake. The real problem is that all of that fuel is required to manufacture everything else. Expect job losses. You've got, I think, every European regulator and bank at the moment is warning that recession is now inevitable. They're not mincing words. They're doing the opposite of what Beijing Biden's Banana Republic administration is doing, pretending there's no recession already in the U.S. Wait till the next quarter's numbers, which will come before midterms, helpfully, by the way, in October. Can't wait to see. It's one of those things where you love to see it, you hate to see it. I don't like to see people suffer, but people do deserve to know what the hell is going on. Grandpa Nurgle, Michael Moorcock, the Elric sagas, best sword and sorcery ever, dark and demonic. Ironically, I like lighter fiction when I'm reading it. That's why I like The Elfin Ship better than the other two books in the Volumnia series that James Blaylock made, because they were more dark. Elfin Ship, there's a lot of jokes about like food and beer and shit like that. It's a very comfy book. Deus Flex, hey Sticks, now that WEF puppet Liz Truss has officially been named Prime Minister, do you think the UK squandered its potential with Brexit, or is there hope for them in the near or far future? There's always hope, even if it's just a fool's hope. We will be talking about Truss, by the way, later on. The chili on the stove. What the hell are you doing on this live? Pay attention to me. I will be checking the chili probably in 10 minutes or so, but I added a bit of extra water. I turned it way down. It should be fine. I'm doing the really, really slow brew chili style. It's not fast. Smells delicious. You should smell it. Add some fucking Tabasco sauce to it later, too. Next news story, American greatness. How old bad ideas became wonderful. Now, this is a little bit of the Dems are real racist sort of thing that you would get from American Greatness and similar sites. It's sort of a boomer take by Victor Hansen. But he is fundamentally correct, to be clear, with regards to this. Joe McCarthy is back talking about, Biden weaponizing the government against people. The good old racism, affirmative action and wokeness. Cultural Marxism, again, that one's self-explanatory. Critical race theory, debunked, by the way, still available on Amazon. Someone appears to have bought 30 or 40 copies of it a few days ago and made quite a bit of money on that. Thanks to whoever bought those, because I can't imagine it was just a group of people doing it coincidentally. Loyalty oaths, yes, indeed. And this is a big one. The woke sort of fringe crowd, the pink-haired people, expect that if you're involved in any form of capitalistic private endeavor, you have to fly the colors, so to speak. Otherwise, they will relentlessly harass you. So, if you don't have a pride flag on front of your shoe store for Pride Month, clearly you're a far-right Nazi. And it's metastasizing like a fucking cancer over and over again. Nullification yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Yes, indeed. The concept of the proper working order, the well-regulated aspect of the U.S. government is being hazarded. Quite clear. Every man a king, and then it goes into debt spending and unemployment. Get them while they're young, indoctrinating little kids into weird shit that, little kids really shouldn't be involved in. Seems to be a national pastime right now for liberals. Cenk Uyghur's sweaty gunt on Rumble. Can we please make some memes of Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers? Just look at him. He looks like a pedo vampire. This should be easy. Oh, the next one will be funny. Let me check Pixel Planet, though. Yeah, the Turks still relentlessly trying to raid the Greek flag and getting their shit shoved in. Don't worry, I'll be pixeling along with you over time. But you can see the Turks also have invaded Bulgaria to the north of Greece in the green. And you can drive them back, too, if you want to. But I think we should focus on the Greek islands first. We'll see what clankers can do. By the way, someone is trying to invade southern Albania. There's no real reason to do that, by the way. I guess that one red chunk above the yellow sun there, I think that is canonically Greek. I think the Macedonians probably tried to take that, but it's in Turkish red for some reason. The whole area is a goddamn mess, to tell the truth, but we'll figure it out, just to be clear. Next story. If Pocahontas had a penis. Washington Free Beacon, bringing the really, really hard-hitting news journalism here. Review, Electable, Why America Hasn't Put a Woman in the White House Yet, by Ali Vitali. When your name rhymes, it's catchy, I suppose. This is nuts. The basic idea is that I guess Elizabeth Warren would have been the president of the United States if only she had been male. She was mistreated. She was held to a different standard than other people. Yeah, she got deferential treatment. She was not criticized as much as other mainline candidates within the Dem party, because even though her views are screwy, even though she's a rich bitch with the wine vineyard sort of thing going on, even though she's accomplished nothing as a senator, even though she's disingenuous as fuck, even though she has lied repeatedly, like Biden admittedly did too, about academics, about her personal life, literally everything that she's done in life. Look at Pow Wow Chow with the crab and mayonnaise cakes or whatever the fuck it was. It's an authentically Cherokee recipe, that one with mayonnaise, of course. She was held to a different standard, I agree. But it wasn't a worse standard. It wasn't, hey, you need to work an uphill battle because you don't have a penis and therefore nobody trusts you. No, it was more like the legacy media didn't dare to criticize her. The same with Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, and all of the others who happen to share a certain gender, especially when races overlap. Warren, of course, clearly a pure-blooded Cherokee, as she claimed initially. Nobody dared to criticize her other than Trump, calling her Pocahontas at the time. By the way, the very title of this article, which is a book review, largely positive towards the book about Elizabeth Warren, very interesting because when Trump first invoked that term, it was considered a sign of deep-seated bigotry and hatred, and nobody should ever say that. He needs to be censored. Oh my God, that's unacceptable. Now, apparently, they've appropriated it to use for book reviews. Very interesting from the Free Beacon's culture piece here. Very, very interesting. Aussie's robots. Doesn't it seem an interesting coincidence? Everything economically evolving from Russia, Ukraine feeds into the Great Reset goal like it was planned. Yeah, it is interesting. Alamandorius, hey, don't worry. A few years ago, Germany powered itself with renewable energy for a day. Surely Nordstream being shut down is meaningless. Honk honk. Yeah, when they restart nuclear complexes and coal power plants in France, etc. Yeah, Trump was right. Yeah, that was funny, the time that Kamala Harris pretended that she's a beer drinker and that she doesn't drink like $50 a bottle Chardonnay or something like that. I'm sure she goes top shelf, probably has her own vineyard. But the idea is that that Elizabeth Warren would have been elected automatically had she had a penis. No, she wasn't particularly well-spoken, still isn't. She's got a very, very checkered past on the personal and professional level. She's lied repeatedly. On the campaign trail, she made all sorts of bizarre, warped promises. She wouldn't have been elected if she had a penis any more than the fact that she had a once-working vagina. But they will still write books about this. The idea is sort of a grift. You know, you're getting money for writing a book that basically plays up to the core fan base of Elizabeth Warren, and then you have your piece in the legacy media reviewing it and giving you 5 gold stars. What a wonderful book. It really helped explain how America has a sexism problem. It's not just the fact that she's an old, derpy, flaky politician who's been in office for, 40 fucking years and didn't accomplish anything. Aaron C. I'm a little concerned about Truss. She said some pretty scary warmongering stuff, although Boris has too, I suppose. Yeah, she's the female Boris Johnson. A little bit less coherent and likable, though, than he is. Darun Albane. Elric was the final hero in the Chaos Order War, and it all links to his other series, World Resets, and his sword turns into a demon in the world of order. Interesting. Asphalt Man 11. Beans, no beans, meh. Here's the real question. Are you making cornbread with it? I would if I knew how to make cornbread, but I don't, unfortunately. That'll be in the next edition of Pow Wow Chow. It has corn in it, so, quite clearly it's a Cherokee recipe. Someone as a joke should make Pow Wow Chow too, and they should definitely include that recipe with the crab mayonnaise. Opinion. Trump's incendiary rally proved President Biden was right. See, if Trump attacks the FBI, he's being incendiary. If Biden attacks 75 million people, he's just right. Quite clearly, all of those MAGA people are a threat. I love the backtracking of a backtracking of a backtracking that he's now engaged in. Day one, Biden says to the American people, MAGA is effectively evil extremist. It's a cancer. Day two, he's asked by the press about it. No, I didn't say that. I don't fear any Trump voters. It's just orange man bad. The next day, he says, no, I really did mean it. MAGA is extremist. Now he's pulling the same thing with congressional Republicans. He's doing the doublespeak thing. Now I realize not all Republicans are MAGA, and I can get along with them, but I just can't get along with these other ones because they won't rubber stamp my agenda. Ergo, instead of being sour grapes and simply saying, I'm sad because they won't do what I want them to do, you bring up the concept of extremism, of fascism, etc. Biden has gotten the cue. He got the MO from the leftoid fringe, that the proper way to go about not getting your way is to call the person who stood in your way a fascist, a Nazi, and things like that. I find the double standard hilarious from the entire legacy media. Well, Biden was actually right. Trump is attempting to enrage his fans. Yeah, I mean, they have a right to be enraged. Their country is being taken apart piece by Banana Republic Biden, and now Banana Republic Biden is literally weaponizing the DOJ against a former political opponent. Yeah, it's a little beyond the pale. And by the way, these news headlines would be inverted if Trump had done that to Hillary. This is why Trump didn't do it to Hillary, by the way. He knew better. Darun Albane, Elric was all heroes reincarnated through time. Alamandorius, you need to do a list about a video about everything that Trump was right about. Rice goes well with chili. I think it'll just be chili on its own tonight because it's hearty enough. Don't really want extra carbs in it anyway. Princess, I can relate to Lizzie. I was told my pow was 1/4 Cherokee. Did my DNA, 100% European. Yeah, I've been told that there's some Abenaki heritage in my lineage, but I'm not crazy enough to take a DNA test. Not unless I told him it was from someone else. Otherwise, the government just gets your DNA. They've much like they've gotten you to carry a tracking device by popularizing smartphones. The popularization of DNA services is literally just for them to get a DNA sample without having a court order. Just to be clear, nobody should get a DNA sample taken under any circumstances. Liz Truss to succeed Boris Johnson as British Prime Minister, inheriting a country in crisis. Well, it's a self-inflicted crisis mainly because you keep hardlining the Russians while being completely fucking energy dependent. Liz Truss will be the next Prime Minister of the UK after winning most votes in the Conservative Party leadership contest, succeeding Boris Johnson, who resigned in July after a series of scandals. Truss defeated rival Rishi Sunak with 81,326 votes to 60,399 among party members, and will take over as leader on Tuesday as Britons face mounting economic and social crisis. And then she's saying she's going to take action. She's totally going to do what Boris couldn't do. She'll manage to rally the party and everything will be hunky-dory. Well, you need to fix your energy policy then. Otherwise, everything's going to be fucked up. She's not going to change anything. Basically, it's the king is dead, long live the king, and basically applies to the situation. She's not going to do anything. She's going to be exactly the same as Boris Johnson, only, and here's the real problem, she's not as well-spoken. She tends to meander off more. Boris Johnson was definitely derpy, a little bit of a weird individual at times, sort of like, hey, the pub boys, sort of like a bogan or something, I suppose. And so is more personable. She's not. She's not particularly well-spoken. Truss had been the front-runner for weeks, and the 47-year-old will now follow Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May to become Britain's third female premier. Despite voting to remain in the European Union back in 2016, she has found herself to be the preferred candidate of the vast majority of Brexiteers in her party. Interesting. Yeah. I told you that they would try to crack the economy of the UK apart in order to eventually set the stage for trying to re-enter the European Union, by the way. I think I predicted that as soon as the Brexit thing got off the ground. Yeah. Truss could find that she has to accommodate a wider range of views from her party, which could mean embracing Sunak's ideas for helping Britons with the cost of living crisis and a less aggressive approach to tax cuts, especially corporation tax. Oh, so you're going to immediately sell out. Okay. I like how they say it's modern-day Thatcherism. I bet the people of the UK widely wish that they had Thatcher back right now. Not a banned account. Why are you confident the US won't collapse soon? Because it's not a monocultural banana republic in the economic sense, and it has absolute military supremacy at sea and in air. Princess, yeah, I learned I shouldn't do DNA after I'd always done it. Blonde runs deep. Joseph Dirty, howdy, brother. Do you think Trump should really run again, or should we go younger like DeSantis in your opinion? I think it must be Trump. I'd be hesitant to back anyone other than Trump unless it's Rand Paul anyway. Battle Elf, now that Brandon has labeled MAGA as terrorists, will he unleash 87,000 agents to take their assets? Yes, that's the whole point of expanding the IRS. It's not to go after billionaires. It's to go after dissidents. A couple more on Rumble. We have, I'm trying to get to it. He3 Fusion. Best fantasy is the Basel series by David Weber. Very fun to read and many hilarious times with great action scenes. And then we have He3 Fusion. Oh, no, that's the same one. Sorry, it keeps going down to the bottom because every time somebody... Joker 1. Did you know that Midnight Express, the 1978 Turkish prison film, was funded by the Greeks to screw the Turkish tourist industry? It worked. Interesting. Yeah, again, chats disappear, the little bubble at top, very quickly on Rumble, and they really need to fix that and just have it stay up there in order for those of us who are content creators to keep with it when we have more than 1,000 people watching. Cross-platform, we're at 5,200 already. Winston Fujimori, if you're a guy, does dressing up as an anime girl at a convention make you gay, or does it show confidence? I'm in the inner circle chat debating Ghost. While I would not be interested in it, I don't know that it makes you gay. It just makes you kind of goofy. I don't know why you'd want to. Critics of the pandemic school closures have been vindicated. This is a Washington Examiner Restoring America piece. I would just like to say that most of us knew from day one that closing schools up was a bad idea. I warned a couple of years ago that it would cause a crisis among the mental development of school children. They warned the closures would cause serious, possibly irreversible developmental retardation. They warned of severe learning loss. Alas, the critics were not just ignored. They were also maligned by a vicious cabal of politicians, news media personalities, that's the legacy media, by the way, and education professionals, most notably American Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten. The critics were called monsters and grandma killers. They were accused of not trusting the science. Children are resilient, the pro-closure camp smugly asserted. No, it's not that children are resilient. It's that they don't yet have the words to describe the ways in which you are harming them. And the article goes on and on. Any person with at least a reasonable IQ, even subpar, I would say, knew that closing schools for extended periods of time would not save lives. It didn't. And would cause developmental delays. We're now beginning to see that now. And it's a real fucking problem. And unfortunately, I'd like to make another prediction. And I've spoken about this before. By the way, you're now apparently allowed to say this on YouTube. Right now, we're seeing developmental delays in kids' facial recognition. Mask covers, the recognizable part of the face mostly. We're seeing competence in math, reading, etc. plummet effectively. We're talking double-digit losses for several years of graduating students. When those students become pubescent, when they're 12, 13, 14 years old, when they get to that hormonal stage where it's time to socialize more in various ways, they're going to be all fucked up. I hate to tell you this, but you're going to see a huge spike in crime in the next 10 years as the result of that. And they won't put two and two together. They won't say that it's because of lockdownerism. I made a video years ago on this topic saying, don't blame me. When the next time that some 14-year-old is shooting up the street, just remember that I argued against these things. And that will happen. To be clear, that is an official, it's not even a prediction, it's a certainty. You're going to see more crime, more depression, more suicide, more social problems. You're going to see a generation of kids that have been damaged by that. It will be, in my opinion, the worst among those that were just starting schooling. So first, second, third graders at the time of peak lockdownerism. I think it'll also be particularly bad with those that were just hitting pubescence at that time. So like the middle school crowd. I think, there will be ultra violence, Kingsley Olgi. I agree. It's going to be a real problem, and it'll be the fault of a bunch of boomers that were worried about their own mortality. Shame on them. Jesus Christ, home slice. I would be much more black-pilled if I lived in the UK. They literally have no good choices. Yeah, I mean, between the Sunak and Truss, which is the funniest surname ever, by the way. You know what a truss is. To carry your saliva around in because you can't stop drooling because you just pulled a Fetterman. I would say, I feel sorry for the British. Alamandorius, how many Biden loser units is that, Sticks? How many exactly are we at between the two platforms that we're on? Well, getting up towards 20 Biden loser units, I think. Matthew Hammond, what can Europe do about the energy crisis unless they start building coal or Gen 4 nuke power plants? Well, the power plants in some cases are only half decommissioned. They could just restart them. The Germans, I think, are still holding off trying to do that. Dennis, dude, I tried to send a super chat about Elizabeth Warren and a lukewarm insult. Cringe YouTube wouldn't let me send it. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You can probably send it on Rumble, though. Battle Elf, when will Brandon go after MAGA? Before or after midterms? Will MAGA be made felons and disenfranchised from voting? That appears to be part of the point, but I think it's more about trying to jail content creators and dissidents and people that fund MAGA campaigns, business people. It won't be just any millionaire that's targeted by the IRS. It'll be the one that signed a nice fat check to InfoWars. Mr. Obvious, I don't think America will collapse, but I do think civil war might be inevitable. Just look at Biden's speech. That was Weimar Germany rhetoric. I don't think that he's got the cojones to start a civil war. He's too weak. Plus, the liberals still need to buy about 20 million more guns before they would be an able-bodied militia. Mark Giudetti, Mika, make Istanbul Constantinople again. BLM, Byzantine Lives Matter. Yeah, let's check up on Greece. Yeah, things have been pretty cleaned up for the most part. I do see that there are still some islands out there that are improperly paneled. It seems like more people are pushing into Albania than helping out clear those islands. The ones closest to Greece, those should be in blue. Like 4 or 5 of them. So we've got to get to work. Also, the Turks appear to be attacking the giant cross over on their border. And of course, you'll get people trying to write Constantinople, and it'll get continuously erased, so it'll be pointless. It's funny, everyone's kept talking about the collapse of the dollar for the last 10 years, by the way. Anyway, next one. Oh, this is a funny one. Doomsday Glacier, which could, weasel words here, raise sea level by several feet, is holding on by its fingernails, scientists say. Isn't this spooky? This is definitely a Halloween story. Antarctica's so-called Doomsday Glacier, nicknamed because of the high risk of collapse and threat to global sea level, has the potential to rapidly retreat in the coming years, scientists say, amplifying concerns over the extreme sea level rise that would accompany its potential demise. The Thwaites Glacier, capable of raising sea level by several feet, is eroding along its underwater base as the planet warms. In a study published Monday in the journal Nature Geoscience, scientists mapped the glacier's historical retreat, hoping to learn from its past what the glacier will likely do in the future. They found that at some point in the past 2 centuries, the base of the glacier dislodged from the seabed and retreated at the rate of 1.3 miles per year. That's twice the rate the scientists have observed in the past decade or so. Oh, so it's slowed down, actually. What's the fucking problem? That swift disintegration possibly occurred as recently as the mid-20th century. Alastair Graham, the study's lead author and marine geophysicist at the University of South Florida, said in a news release. Southern Florida, you don't have much familiarity with glaciers down there. If you got a glacier down there, then we are truly fucked as a civilization. It suggests that Thwaites has the capability to undergo a rapid retreat in the near future once it recedes past a seabed ridge that is helping to keep it in check. So it's being held in check, but clearly it's going to split off and end the world. Somebody quickly tell the Obamas to sell their Martha's Vineyard McMansion. That's very, very necessary. Otherwise, they'll lose their McMansion. Whatever shall they do? Garrett, have you heard about the ATF pistol brace amnesty period announcement? No, I have not. I guess folding braces or something. The ATF keeps trying to go after them for absolutely no reason. We'll see what happens with that. I would assume after the Bruin decision, it would be relegated unconstitutional anyway, so I don't see that it's really a big problem. I have a feeling that anything they try to do now, like as not, gets shot down in court, which is great. Yeah, exactly. Natsurim at the gate. Obama better sell all his Hawaiian beachfront property too. Yeah, Zuckerberg actually has a massive ass compound in Hawaii that's right up against the beach. In fact, was enraging the local population by building a bunch of walls, I think, around his property. Danger, Aaron. Check out Tony Heller for Real Climate Science. Yeah, Real Climate Science is, of course, the climate's changing. It's been doing that since the world began. And no, you're not sure about what contribution humans have. And it's got a feedback mechanism. Otherwise, there'd be no life on the planet. So I'm not worried about it. Joker 1, there's a great artwork of you, Sticks, in Antarctica. Oh, I haven't seen that. I've been focused on Greece for the last couple of days. By the way, there is a baby chuffing up there. I don't know where it is. The Antarctica, whatever it is. I know that people are trying to grief the swastika that's down there, which kind of out of the way, so a waste of time, I think, for Clanker Energy. No, I don't see it down there. I would need the coordinates. Mitch James, are the ice glaciers melting from climate change? Yeah, absolutely. It's just not certain whether humans have anything to do with that. I argue that that's unlikely. Shifty Russian, outside of the Netherlands, would you like to live anywhere else? Just the United States, I suppose. I'm not really drawn to most countries because most of them, like the Netherlands, have no guns. The Netherlands is a safe country and a nice country with a reasonable climate. I don't want to move to the Sahara or something like that. I'd like to see Mongolia someday, though. And here, just give me a second because I do want to check the chili to make sure it's not, the fluid's not so low it's going to burn. So just a second, everyone. All right, the chili is still on point. It is thickening somewhat and looks goddamn delicious, and I can't wait to take a taste test. But right now I've got to talk, so I don't dare to eat anything. drool it all over myself. Ugh. I'd end up like Joe Biden or John Fetterman. Brian Zwart, have you ever seen the episode of Bugs Bunny when Bugs gets the keys to Florida and the state floated off into the ocean? No, I haven't actually. I used to watch all those old cartoons as a kid, by the way. I preferred Gilligan's Island over like the kids' cartoons. I thought that was the greatest series ever. Then they destroyed it by putting it up against Gunsmoke in the same time slot and wondered why the fuck it didn't have higher ratings. Joker 1 on Rumble, artwork of you west of the swastika in Antarctica. I'll take a look at that later. R. Not only is there art of you in Antarctica, there's random instances of the word clank all over the map. I added one myself near my city, Miami, Florida. Yeah, I've seen all the clanks. There are a couple in Greece, too. Green Top LLC. Who do you think is going to be targeted by the IRS? Blue collar? Social media feed them a list? Content creators or anyone else outspoken? Dollar amount? I think it'll be aimed at the middle and upper middle class content creators, upper to working rich donor class, entrepreneurs, anyone who has sort of ideas that are out of the center. And it will be aimed, by the way, too, at leftists. We saw this with the IRS scandal under Obama, which Lois Lerner was tossed under the bus for. The IRS was denying the fundraiser, the nonprofit status to conservative groups. This was big in the news. They also denied it to progressive groups. And they did that because the neo-lib, neocon uniparty sticks together. They don't want anyone coming out of left or right field. This will happen again. The IRS expansion is explicitly political. If anything, the IRS should be abolished, not expanded. You could automate half the jobs that are there anyway. And yes, you will probably be audited if you have a reasonable amount of income and or reasonable audience, and you're too outspoken, you say the wrong things, you happen to be a problem, and they will attempt to drag you through court. That will happen. This is why I take far less than I am owed as far as deductions each year. Probably won't even take any this fiscal year. I'm just not going to deal with it. Texasp 12. Chili has no beans, but have you ever used beer instead of water? No, and chili does have beans unless it is a topping or a hot side dish, like, chili on the side with your burger or something. If chili is the meal, it should have beans in it. Yeah, I can't wait for the next IRS scandal with the selective auditing of people who are conservative or progressive. Sparky, there's been a war on small businesses for decades. Yeah, a lot of them gone back in my hometown of Rutland. Apparently, Seward's Restaurant, that's a really old family restaurant from goddamn the greaser era or something. It used to be a dairy. They're going under now too, which means that I'll never taste their beer battered fries again, or their Super Dog, which was really great with chili, just to be clear. That chili doesn't have beans in it because it's a hot dog topping. Unfortunate. One of the nearest restaurants to my house, so now I have to go several blocks further just to get a fucking burger. How wonderful. R, curious what comes to your mind when you hear Miami, Florida. It's technically Florida, but not really. I think of Vice City. I think of that video game, GTA. I think of running around whacking hookers in the head with a hammer. I think of stealing the pizza delivery car and then doing tricks with it. I think of randomly assaulting people in the street in that video game. Really good game for that era. Although the map was so small, like it wasn't even as believable as GTA 3. Certainly pales in comparison to the map you got in GTA San Andreas. If they had just made it a lot bigger and they had made it more San Andreas style, it would have been like not only game of the year, it would have been game of the fucking decade. Yeah, chili should have beans in it unless it is a topping or a side dish. If it is the main dish and the side is like cornbread or biscuits or something, the chili should have beans in it. And this seems to, for some reason, this like pineapple on pizza, how do you take your steak and do beans go in chili, seem to be like the ultimate culinary debates of U.S. culture. And I don't fucking understand it. It's a side dish like you put on hot dogs. It's usually just called meat sauce. Yeah, but it's also called a chili dog for a reason. It's cooked the same way, but you wouldn't put beans in it. You don't want a bunch of kidney beans sliding off the side of your hot dog. So you're doing that mainly for consistency, not taste. Joker 1. They fed us PBJ sandwiches with chili at grade school in the 1960s in Illinois. It's great. I can't eat chili without it. Got my wife hooked on it too. That sounds interesting. Do you dip it in the chili too? A little bit of peanut butter in there. All right, today, everyone, we're making almond chili. I bet you could do something like that, and you could double the price of it and then market it to hipsters. Like the same people that take avocado toast in Starbucks. I bet they would like almond chili or something like that. Let's get something going with weird recipes that are deliberately made weird just to price them more, and then you can call it free trade, fair trade, or health food or something. That's what to do. Sort of like soy. I remember when tofu came onto the market for the first time in small town America, it was marketed as really healthy for you. Hey, look, it's a nice protein-packed meat substitute. Put some soy in it and fry it up. Now, of course, we know it causes endocrine disorders. Shifty Russian, who are your favorite independent journalists? I go more onto the content creator side as far as analytics go. There are a lot of people that kind of like Tim Pool. He does journalism. Alex Stein, technically, although it's comedic. Lauren Southern, many people. I drink onion peels in my coffee. Helps with hair loss and has vitamins, says Short and Salt 7 on Rumble. Yeah, no thanks. I'll skip that. And I'm not sure that onions actually restore hair, although I do know that onion juice has been rubbed into the scalp by people for centuries. I think that's medieval era that you're talking about. By the way, the baby is definitely chuffing up a storm up there. I'm going to have to cut this short. You can keep fighting on Pixel Planet if you would like. Again, we need to retake those Greek islands with blue. I thank you all for coming aboard. 6,000 people watching at peak. Unfortunately, keeping it about 10 minutes shorter than I would like to. Yeah, I'll go live tomorrow with another news roundup, schedule permitting. And I should probably check on the chili again because it is starting to thicken up. 2 more, and please don't send any more super chats. Adam THM, does peanut butter go on a burger sticks? No. Also, which mayo do you like? The wife and me love Kewpie mayo from Japan now. I just get regular Hellmann's. Mr. Sandwich, this talk of chili is making me hungry. Made chili beef last week. We'll probably make it again. Yeah, and then you get leftover. You can thicken it further, and you can basically make kind of a sloppy joe with it if you want to. Smush up some of the beans. Do all sorts of things. Yes, Rebel News also I like. All right, that's about all. Peace out.